Couch in space!
Oh, look, it's a couch.
Looks comfortable.
And it's in space.
Cool.
Couch in space!
Hi everyone, welcome back again to another exciting episode of Couch in Space. Well done, Will. I'm here with Will Fleming, who is one half of the dynamic duo of fatherhood, also known as the Rad Dads.
Boom.
And Will and I go back quite a few years.
Quite a few years.
For some reason, everyone starts at TVNZ
Yep.
and ends up somewhere in the world, and then you get back together again.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that crazy, eh?
You've helped a lot of people in their careers. You taught me how to edit on an Avid.
How many years ago was that?
1950. No, I remember it 2011 because the All Blacks won.
Oh, right. 7 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeez. And you started in promotions, in the promos.
Yeah, I actually started in news graphics. So
okay.
I wanted to. My priority was to find a job because I had a young family. I did it this way around: have babies first, and try and use that as your lightning rod to build a career. Because I'm a loved child who am a spoiled child, and I'm the youngest.
Right.
So hence why I look like a big baby because I am. But as soon as I had babies, it was like, oh no, you got to pay for them, you know. So did the courses, hustled my way into TVNZ. I'm not the best designer, but I think one of my strengths is I can just get things done.
Right.
I understand a deadline.
Yep.
And I just get it done. And my bosses preferred me because I was cheap. I was desperate. This is a good start.
It wasn't that bad, sure.
Yeah. Well, I was desperate. But, you know, desperation sometimes is a good thing. And I say it to the students I teach today that, you know, if everything's comfortable, it actually works against you sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
You know, and I don't know where you learn that. Some people learn it through their hard upbringing. Others learn it just through circumstance. Interestingly, there's a study that was created from the survivors of the Christchurch earthquakes about the levels of happiness. And those two things don't go together, earthquake and happiness. No. But I think what it was trying to say was they had meaning, which was like survival is meaning. Yes. And I kind of think about it sometimes with our iPhones and our, you know, steak and cheese pies and our self-driving cars. It's like, we're just being cradled around, you know, and always with a dummy in our mouth in a constant state of sleep. Yes. And it kind of freaks me out because I'm like, you know, I like it when a baby cries, not too much, but it's a signal. Yes. I need something. Yeah. And I feel like as adults we maybe don't cry enough, you know. So
we don't.
I took this very deep, very fast.
Yeah.
Well, we are in space.
That's right. And
we should be going like this.
Ooh.
Like in Apollo 13, hey, that's how they did it.
It's interesting that you say that because I've just thought about this just recently, and in a similar vein, but it's about resilience. You know, when you're challenged and you're put into a situation that is uncomfortable, and you come out of that situation, all the little things don't bother you anymore because you've got a benchmark to weigh up against. So if someone is, you know, is mean to you, it just washes over you because, I've dealt with this is nothing, you know? And that level of resilience, I think you need to be shaken up, and you can only do that when you're totally out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
And how do you get out of your comfort zone, Will?
Well, we're not allowing people to. I mean, I know how to get out of it, which is try things that scare you and know that you are lucky you've won the lottery. You're in this part of the world. If you are at rock bottom, there's someone to help you. But go to schools where they're stopping kids climbing trees. I mean, that's not teaching them anything apart from, you know, go to the trampoline where you've got the nice safety ring around it. The kids jump against it. Yes. It's a fun feature, but what happens when you take it off? They fall off and break their arm.
Both my kids on a trampoline knocked their front teeth out.
Yeah, and look,
but they only ever did it once, and then that's it.
How many of us landed on, you know, going along and landed on it? Yeah, you only do that once because you know your body tells you don't do that again.
It's too traumatic.
Yeah, but look, I'm not saying it should go the other way where we put people in danger. I just think, you know, we in this Western world, and there's a lot of cool things, but kind of get back to that yin-yang, you know, like, I'm not trying to get too philosophical, but the bit
No, do, because I really respect that. So.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And it's something I think about a lot. I just saw it as a cool surfing symbol, but someone explained to me that
That's
it's
what I've got here. It rubs against
Right.
my microphone. Yin Yang is one of the big ones.
you shouldn't be looking at the bits that join together. Look at the two dots because they represent the chaos within. And I was like, wow, that's in us, and we know it. We can feel it.
Yeah.
And we just don't kind of have that language to work through with each other. But I think it's moments like this, hanging out and seeing different people, and the Māoris have it where you share a breath of air.
Yes.
And it's like, that's what you don't get from the internet, that's what you don't get from...
To be honest, that's what you don't get from Western society.
True.
Because it's all about separatism, isn't it?
It's all about separatism, yeah.
You're on your phone, you look at that, there's always a barrier there.
Yeah.
But when do you ever go and talk to someone for 20 minutes? You have to have a couch in space in order to get that time.
Exactly. We're not on our phones.
No.
We're doing everything that humans do, which is look at each other, look away from each other.
Yes. Think about something.
Exactly. Having a conversation.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
Where does it go?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's something that I want to kind of get into, which is kind of taking these skill sets of maybe podcasting or videography or editing and actually like not just teaching students how to do it, but letting them explore kind of like what else that offers you, like it's actually hard to sit down and talk to someone.
It is, yeah.
It's a learnt skill,
And I think, talked about this with my last guest star, it's about the art of listening. She's a reporter. And as a reporter, you're there to tell a story and you need to listen to all the different points of view and then, sum it up for someone to digest. And I think part of it is the art of listening that has been kind of forgotten almost because we are told to scream at people all the time, me. I mean, look at Facebook. Yeah. I'm feeling this way. This is what I'm doing. I'm eating this. Yeah. Me. And when do you ever... Very rare do you get a Facebook page that poses a question. Yeah. Or you comment on a Facebook page that says, oh, I hope you're feeling better. How are you really feeling? Oh, that sort of stuff. But it gets deep. It gets personal. Yeah. And it's unsafe. And because it's unsafe, well, this is what gets you out of your comfort zone. Hey, this is what rattles the cage a little bit.
Exactly.
And I think I really admire people like you who are stepping out of the safety zone of... I'm Will and I just stand for being a good guy. You're saying, I'm really passionate about fatherhood and I'm going to tell you about that and I'm going to include you and I'm going to challenge you to think about things differently. And
I'm challenging myself.
Oh yeah, that's
like,
you can't not. Hey.
And sometimes it's not even about the audience. It's like, I want to make things which push my thinking into another level, and it happens every day. Yeah. Once you start looking for that stuff, you can't help but not see it everywhere. No. And that's actually scary, and I understand why people don't want that, because there is something nice about the cushy job, the 9 to 5, the regular pay, the massive mortgage. Not you feel the same, but over time, that's where the chaos creeps in, and it's asking you to get up and do the moonwalk or do something out of it, and it can go too far. So I hope we look back in some years. Maybe that's where AI plays a part to, help regulate, and instead of your phone giving you your notifications on social media in the morning, maybe it can say, hey Daniel, you slept shallow last night. Here's 4 websites that I recommend you visit. That's what Siri should do,
Almost like a well-being thing,
correct.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Like built in. And it's like agreed and scientifically signed off and studied, and you've got this little computer that can help you, to maybe just look after you, to say how are you, and
well, that's kind of what this little baby is. I got this one. It's an Apple Watch, so I got this one for my birthday.
It's also what this little baby is as well.
And this little baby does exactly that as well, because this can regulate. If I'm sitting down too long, it goes bzz, bzz. True. How about you stand up now? Yeah, like that.
Does it shock you?
No, it doesn't shock me.
Well, watch out
for that. It's not that aggressive.
That's a whole different story. That's some Orwell
Sometimes
stuff.
I need a good shocking. But it's already saying that it's not good to just sit there for 8 hours and concentrate on one thing. You need to move. Yeah, your body is designed to move. Just because you have a job that doesn't allow you to move, it's like it's up to you now to how do you fit that in? So I got Poppy here as a device to say, hang on a minute, I'm doing this work, but I need to take her out for at least 10 minutes
Yes.
every 3
Correct,
hours or
correct.
so because she has those needs. And yeah, it's a motivation for me.
Yeah.
And I get the fresh air and I come back twice as productive as when I left.
Exactly. You know, and it's those things that I think we forget about, how simple it can be just to calibrate ourselves, you know. It might just, and I get it why that doesn't become part of the day, because you're under a deadline, you know, you're trying to make these things work, you're stressed, you're maybe a bit sad yourself, and you're just trying to kind of work through what's happening, you know, and all of a sudden you, and whatever the well-being bit means, gets kind of shoved back a little bit or parked for another day.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that's like lunchtime and playtime at school, and
Yeah.
get out there and run around, and that's what I kind of liked about visiting, you know, Sunpicks, is that I heard people talking and laughing and doing stuff. And I think for me, what I overwhelmingly felt in my career was that equaled people mucking around or laziness, and I just think it doesn't.
You are judged by that, yeah.
True,
in
true.
a normal sense, I mean, yeah. I try not to care about that things too, you know, too much, because it is about human relationships, and if people are laughing and are happy, that's a sign that they enjoy their work.
Right.
You know, I'd rather hear that than know someone stayed 10 hours, you know, working back to, I don't know, whatever. It's such an old way of looking at the world, isn't it? That clocking in 9 to 5. I hate 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I don't want 9 to 5. I even hate the idea of a 40-hour working week or a 5-day week. And to be honest, the staff here are encouraged to be flexible with that, you know. Some days they're going to be really productive, and sometimes they're not going to be productive. If you're not going to be productive, go to the zoo, you know.
Exactly.
See the sun.
Yeah.
Don't be here.
Yeah.
Don't be, yeah.
I mean, I also think, because I feel exactly the same way, but every now and then there is a part of me that thinks we do have this habit now of our modern world of kind of starting to ditch everything from the past and thinking that everything old is not good. And I started challenging myself to maybe try and think not so negatively about the old. So, for example, and you know, I try not to get too hardcore, but I've been thinking about religion a lot lately, and I was thinking the other day, there's let's say there's a general push to lean more on science.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in space.
Yes,
Can you
that's
add
right.
anything in the back? Could there be like a asteroid just go past?
Poppy floats by when she jumps off the couch.
Sweet as. What if okay.
But yes.
Christopher Reeve Superman. You know, he's going around. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
So religion, interesting. Superman was based off Jesus. He was 33.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when he came to Earth as the Saviour. That's intense, eh?
Is that true, or is that just like a
Well, I think Jesus was
coincidence?
33 when all that stuff happened.
Superman
Anyway.
came to Earth long before that and was a kid and
Okay,
discovered his powers.
True. Okay, well, let me when he got turned into Superman,
Yes.
like his resurrection,
Okay.
he was 33
The-
when he got the suit.
When he got the cape.
Yeah. I'm talking about original Superman.
Okay.
You know, not the stinky
I don't
new
know
one.
if there's a difference.
No,
Okay.
well, the old one was something you looked up to.
Okay.
The new one's just a dude with powers.
Who wears his undies on the outside?
No, not in the new one. They removed the undies.
Oh, really?
How dare they? The whole thing about it was he wore the undies on the outside.
That's right.
Yeah.
And could still, you know,
And it looked
be
cool.
respected.
Yeah.
He could the only one that could pull that off.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
But I started thinking, if we take kind of the story of religion and all the, you know, the metaphors out of our society, what are we replacing it with? And whose interpretation of what a good life means are we listening to? And that kind of freaked me out, because, you know, the religion of science is awesome, but it also has nuclear weapons. It can, you know, do science experiments. And I'm saying that's all good. I think it came back to a little bit of that yin-yang thing. Let's have a balance. Let's make sure that equally we're checking ourselves to take a bit of new, a bit of old, and all push it forward at the same time.
Do you think, especially with yin and yang,
Yeah.
you know, it's a scale. And, you know, once the scale is tipped up to its fullest on one side, it needs to then be picked up on the other side, and eventually things will settle down. So
think
it's
so.
almost like having the 60s, you know, with free love and things like that, when it was up against a very regimented society. And I think we're in a similar vein, especially the way we are in a corporate world. everything is business related. Everything has to be justified in being productive. Productive equals making money. How dare you fold a paper plane because that's not productive? How can you make money out of that unless you're a YouTuber folding paper planes? And I battled with this a little bit, especially with my music. I could not justify buying something like a guitar without thinking, oh, well, in order to buy the guitar, I should be getting a gig to make the money to buy the guitar. And to be honest, that depressed me. It was depressing to have an artistic outlet that you then have to shove into a category that is about productivity and black and white. And I think that's where a lot of this dualism and conflict comes from, especially people that are more sensitive to that. They need a creative outlet, but they're living in this world that you have to have insurance, you have to pay a mortgage. And it's hard. And
It's really hard.
you have actually no energy left to then be creative.
Well, and that's the downside of having a full stomach every night, you know? So we want to have a certain level of comfort. I think for me, the big thing is just don't kind of take it for granted. You know, when people bag the Western world, I'm like, you know, part of being able to self-reflect and bag on something is to have a certain level of comfort.
Yeah,
like,
right.
you know, when it's really raining, you're not thinking about anything else apart from staying dry. And so, you know, take that into lots of areas, you know, if it was raining, you're hungry, you got no power, food, you know, you can't think about well-being.
No.
You're just in a state. So it's kind of like, I think, the analogy of some type of scale, you know, and we're just trying to find our way through. But it's kind of cool that, you know, we've all got some kids and they're coming through, and it might be them who push this along a bit. And I think we're examples of people who, you know, 50 years ago, our conversation right now is probably at a bar with some durries and some beers and ends in a fight with someone, you know. And I think that we've made progress because we find this enjoyable. We're kind of using technology where people can join in from home, or, you know, I kind of imagine, I know one of you out there is watching on the toilet, that's fine.
Really?
I haven't worked out, you know, the kind of health stuff of it, but the phone goes everywhere. It's going in the toilet with you.
It's true.
And there's a nice mix. So, you know, at some point I'm like, it gets really deep, but just, you know, be happy. Try and aim for something that you enjoy doing, and you know that someone told me, like, this jiu-jitsu master. He's a cool dude. He helps prisoners kind of learn how to control their emotions. But he told me, you do need stress. Like, it's essential to have stress. Just compact it into an hour of your day.
Yes,
then it's fair.
Yeah.
Have your most stressful time, and really get yourself to the edge. And then, you know, find a way to let it out, you know, and deal with it, and then go on with the rest of your day. Because, you know, your body does have things to deal with that, right? Anger, and it needs to be triggered. And,
and released.
True.
That's part of the problem, I think, is that you're told to suppress, like crying and anger.
Yeah.
You know, yes, I mean, hitting someone is not the way to go, but to go upstairs and beat your pillow if you're really feeling that frustration. I think especially male energy can be pent up, and you just want to just sorry, Bobby. Let loose on the couch kind of
There
thing.
we go.
Oh, sorry, girl. There you go. There was a prime example.
There we go. It's
But you can kind
okay.
of see how unaccepted that is. You know, it vibrates the area. Things start panicking, like Poppy. Sorry, girl.
Poppy and our sound
Yeah,
engineer.
I know.
I have a question for you, Daniel.
Yep.
And I've been asking a few people I know lately, so I'll see if I can articulate it. When a human's born, is the natural state... okay, let's not talk about let's talk about a 20-year-old human with no external involvement. So just, you know, nothing good, nothing bad, just this person who's had an equal amount of having to forage for food and food provided. Is the natural state of humanity good, or is it good that can be taught to be darker, or is it dark, like more of a rugged lion animal that can be kind of taught to be good?
I think you're born with both. You know, that's the thing. And good, evil, they're all relative.
True.
They're relative to your belief system.
Yeah.
What we think is good, someone will think is of evil. That's why I think there's such an issue with religions, because
Right.
their definitions of either one of those differs from different societies. However, I think to have a spiritual outlet in life, whether it be of our religious nature or you meditating and going into yourself, I think that's part of the human condition.
Yeah.
And this is something that's deeply personal. And as soon as the flag is raised where people say, one size fits all, you must all be this religion now, that's when things get really dark and dangerous, because it's just not, it doesn't work. You know, it hasn't worked in history.
True.
People work together and we have a pretty good societal system at the moment. I mean, considering we are umpteen billion people living on this planet and it's getting more and more crowded, the fact we're not having more wars than we actually are, and we're living in a pretty sedate environment where we can go to the supermarket and buy anything we want without really having to worry about, can I afford this candy bar or not, you know. However, having said that, you know, there are still areas in the world that deal with that. But for the most part, but the good and evil thing is, yeah, it's relative. I think most people want to do the right thing, and misunderstanding is the biggest issue. And misunderstanding comes from not listening. So once you actually know how the other person is feeling, or having some empathy. So if you come to me and you push me out of the way, what if I saw that from your point of view? You know, was it an accident? Were you directing that at me?
Yeah.
I think 98% of incidents aren't actually directed at you. They're caused by something that is outside of, you know, you caught some reaction of it, but you haven't caused it. It's not personal.
Yeah.
And then when you can start empathizing with other people, it makes the world a very much simpler place, because putting yourself in another person's shoes actually allows you to, you know, be that forgiving and things like this.
Yeah.
I make it sound very simplistic.
Right.
It's probably the most difficult thing you can do,
Yeah.
because if you bumped into me, my immediate reaction is, how dare he? What's his
Exactly.
problem?
Exactly.
What have I done to him?
Yeah.
And before I even realise it, I'm pushing you back, you know? And it's a reaction thing. I haven't thought about it. It's just what's ingrained. He must be up to no good.
Correct.
First instinct.
Yeah. Something like a motorway with road rage.
Right.
You know, you're
I
trying
don't
to...
understand road rage. It's so sad.
Oh, well, it creeps in, I tell you.
Do you get it? Do you get road
I
rage?
don't get the road rage, but I try and get revenge.
Okay, do you?
So, for example, today...
But you take it personally. Like if someone cuts in front of you, you take it personally, saying, this guy is out to make my life a misery, therefore I'm going to get revenge. Even though they may not have seen you.
I know, it's not it's stupid. It is stupid. And I'm starting to do it, but it is because I am... so I'm half Cook Island, half Kiwi.
Okay.
And I think for most of my 37 years, I've been a mild-mannered Rarotongan.
Okay.
I'm starting to become a old, rude white man, like my dad. He's the ultimate... He's so rude, I don't know how I came from him.
Right.
Like, he's one of those guys that the only person he's nice to is me.
Right.
So it's this weird dynamic, but I start feeling myself, you know, getting short with people,
Yeah.
and not in a way, but just when I think things are not appropriate. So, for example, maybe it's a conversation I can kind of get your opinion on. My wife's German, and we've just come back from Germany,
Yeah.
and over there, no one's interested in what you're up to.
Right.
It's your job to live your life. If you walk around with a booger on your nose, I'm not telling you. It's your job to look in the mirror,
Right.
right? So you look after you. In New Zealand, I feel like there's a bit more of a, we'll help each other out. I'll jump in. I'll open the door. I'll let you through.
Mm-hmm.
But I started noticing that it can be a bit busybody here.
Right.
So I was at the airport coming back and filling out my card, and my passport was where dog is now. Someone walked up to me and said, "Is that your passport?" And I said, "Yes, why?" "Oh, well, you should have it closer to you." And instead of saying the Kiwi way, "Hey, thanks, mate," I said, why don't you worry about your stuff and I'll worry about my passport? Okay, it was after a 12-hour flight.
Okay, yeah, everyone's grumpy after a 12-hour flight, however.
But I just thought, that's making me not responsible. I know it's my passport. It's right there. Do you want it here? Here? Should I hold it on me?
Yeah.
You know, are you now the authority on rules? You know, and ironically, coming from Germany, where there are known as this rule book place.
Yes.
But in saying that, it's also really silly over there, where they have parks with grass on it, and you're not allowed to sit on the grass.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Dumb,
Oh,
isn't it?
you know German, eh?
I know
We
German.
could switch over.
Ich kann Deutsch sprechen.
Ah,
Kannst
das
du
ist
Deutsch
super.
sprechen?
Ja, ein
Das ist
bisschen.
super, ein
ja,
bisschen?
Ja, ja, ja.
Gut.
Das ist ein süßer Hund.
Ein süßer Hund.
Ja.
Ja, danke
Ja.
sehr. Sie ist sehr lieb.
Yeah. Is everyone in the room confused? Cool.
Yeah, our cameraman is. He's going, "Ugh, I can't believe this.
He's thinking.
Only happens in space.
True, true.
But interesting you say that. But again, that's social conditioning. And I think there is a bit of a high and mighty attitude sometimes, like, you should do this, I'm watching you, why are you doing it this way? I hate the word should, because should implies that you've done something wrong.
Right.
You know, it gives you no choice. It's saying, because you haven't done this, that is why it's this situation. And this is a play on words, and anyway, I try not to use the word should. Try that one. In any conversation, don't say the word should.
Yeah.
You can. There's other words that you can use, and you can rephrase it, or you can use the word could,
Right.
because could gives you your power back. Could gives you a choice. You could do it this way, or you could do it this way.
Wow.
But should, I'm projecting on you what I think is right. So if the person came up to you and say, hey, it's a bit unsafe around here, you could have that a little bit there, then you can go, no, I'm fine, mate, that's good, I'm happy with that, you know. It's less, I don't know, authoritative, I guess.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting, and we're talking about slight kind of nuances
It
in
is.
language.
But that's what we're getting to now as a human species, when things are, we don't have to battle, well, majority of it battle wars and things like that. Now all of a sudden there's a lot more self-awareness going on.
Yeah.
And we're still thinking back to being harsh and don't trust anyone and everything's negative. Now all of a sudden there's this movement where people are meditating, there's yoga, there's reflection, and people say, oh, there's actually a gentler way of communicating, and maybe that's where humanity's heading now.
Have you tried float tanking?
No.
Do you know what it is?
You're in a tank and you float?
Correct. Ding.
Ding!
No,
But
no.
I don't know what's
No. Well, it's isolation
explain.
chamber, which sounds like torture,
Yep.
which I think is used as torture. But in this case, there's companies set up now where you basically go into a room, you hop in a pool of a foot of water,
Yeah.
you close the door, it becomes black. You have earplugs, you lie in the water so you're weightless,
Yes.
and you can't hear anything, and it's black. So now you realise that it's the first time since birth where you've been alone.
That sounds actually really cool.
It is really cool, and your mind takes over, and it's like meditation on steroids. So some people kind of like it's too much because it takes you on this hallucinogenic kind of trip. But for others, it's like part of their week, you know, and even more so in today's society with phones and, you know, meetings and cars and Skypes and all that kind of stuff. So it'd be interesting to you to come and do one with me, and then you could come back on the show and, you know, talk about the difference. And
Oh man,
Yeah.
I've seen the light.
You've unlocked something.
I've unlocked something.
Yeah.
Interesting you say that though. Yeah, taking out those sensories and having black. And so you've done it.
Yep.
So talk us about that. So you're lying there, and most of us, if you look, if you know Eastern philosophy, there's something called the monkey mind, and that's what most of us have. It is a mind that never stops. We have to take sleeping tablets, or we have to drink something just to say, shut up, slow down, stop thinking. When you're in a tank, that monkey mind will be amplified to no end. Tell us how you cope with that.
The one thing they say to you before you go in is they say, try and focus on your heart beating, because that brings you back.
Why not breathing?
Probably that too.
Okay.
But I think they think that's more interesting because you normally can't hear your heart beating.
True.
until you have nothing else around. And it's weird. You can feel it beating, and you can hear it beating, and then it becomes this like like a tick-tock, I guess, where it starts to put you in a relaxed state. But I mean, I haven't explored it, and there's ways that you can do it to go even deeper. And my mind, that kind of stuff is a bit like, the deepest, darkest journals of philosophy. I kind of think, well, if it doesn't help most of the people, really simply, it's just an idea. It's not a practical thing, like, I get it. There's all these ways to be the ultimate human, but most of us don't live like that. Most of us just aim for trying to be happy, and that's most of us won't get there. But I always look for the kind of middle ground or the through line in something, which is something I'm keen to pick your mind, if you don't mind me coming with another question.
Yeah, sure.
So we're in space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aliens, aliens, maybe one pulls up.
Yep.
And he looks over at you and says, Daniel, I've chosen you to tell me the human story.
Wow.
What's the one thing that combines your race? Because, from sitting out here, all I can see is space junk. I've seen a few of the wars. Is there an underlying story that connects you all, or are you all just kind of random meat sacks walking around?
Easy.
Okay.
Suffering.
Oh, here we go.
You know why?
Why?
Suffering is when you're born into this world, to survive this world, you have certain needs. And one, you have to breathe, so you need oxygen. You need to eat. When you're hungry, that's a small form of suffering. And I think this is part of the Buddhist philosophies too, is that everyone suffers in the world. And that's just part of life, because in order to sustain your well-being in it, you have to do certain things. It's only when you're dead that's when you stop suffering, or, before you were born kind of thing. But there's various levels of suffering. And I think unless you've attained some sort of enlightenment where you basically holistically accept that you are a sufferer, then you're always going to be on this yin-yang journey. I feel good now, I feel shit now. I feel good now, I feel shit now. And that's a yo-yo, and you're going to go through that your whole life, so that you can never rest on that middle pivotal point where there's just nothing. And I think that's the way of the world. That's the way of our planet anyway. There might be other planets where people don't suffer, where they live really long, healthy lives, and they don't have all this other bullshit to deal with. But if you look at our planet, it's actually an amazing place because it's got all the extremes. There's extreme suffering, dying of hunger or being eaten by a shark.
Correct.
Or there's extreme comfort, like private jets and gold-plated cutlery and things like that. However, every person on this planet has these forms of suffering and non-suffering, and it's how you balance those.
Wow.
And I think, and that's why you can look at anyone in the eye and see a child, because no one knows everything. Everyone's insecure about something. Everyone laughs. Everyone cries. And that's my personal understanding of humanity.
So do you think that instead of saying to people, we need to be more happy, do you think we should say the goal should be we need to suffer less?
It's the same, wasn't it? Both sides of the same coin kind of thing.
But I think one asks you to not, or one doesn't acknowledge bad. The other kind of acknowledges it and says have less of it. Therefore, your happiness scale would potentially be higher.
Yeah, I think when you're happy, be happy. When you're sad, be sad. When you're angry, be angry. And this is something even, and let's getting back into parenthood here. And I never got angry at my kids for being angry. But be angry in your room. Don't be angry around me. Remove the situation. And same with, when people, take their kids to a supermarket and the kids are just screaming their heads off and they're dragging these kids down the aisle and saying, shut up, and people look at them and yes, rather than just taking the child, okay, you're going to be a little shit. I'm not going to do my shopping now. I'm going to take you outside, wait till you're finished, and then do my shopping.
Right.
But there's this culture that we need to, I don't know, dominate the situation.
Right.
And every time you do that, you're just amplifying the situation. So remove yourself from it. It's like if someone's loud and obnoxious, don't tell them to shut up. Go away. Walk outside. Remove yourself from the situation.
But that level of enlightenment that you're talking about,
Yeah.
of realizing that,
Yes.
where is that taught? Is it taught? Should it be taught in schools? Is it the parents' job to teach
It
that?
could be taught at schools.
It should be.
It could be taught at schools.
Could we introduce it at schools?
We could.
Shall we?
Shall we? That's right, exactly.
Possibly. No, we're
you're
starting to
right.
speak like Yoda.
Yeah.
In schools taught it
But I
should.
guess,
It could.
I think reflection and self-realization would be amazing to be taught at schools. But you'd have to be taught by someone who has that level of thinking, you know. Us two, wow, we could charge, if you add the greed factor to it, like $1,200 a course,
Yes.
and we have 50 students.
And then when we're not teaching them, they're building little devices for us.
Oh, we can make an app and a book that goes along with it. And all the,
And we'll just get carried around.
Yeah.
Not far off the ground.
Self-help is big business these days. It is, isn't it? But
It is.
look at
It's
it.
huge.
It's a huge industry. The new age, self-help. I mean, I've read countless books of, you know, spiritual ones and ones that better business, understanding humanity, understanding yourself, be a better you, etc., etc. It goes on and on. But at the end of the day, it's someone else's opinion and philosophy, and it either fits in or it doesn't. But take the parts that do, because in every book I've read, I got something out of it. Even if it's just a sentence that says, blah, 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 you know, and you go, that resonates with me. That's what I'd like to aspire to, or at least that made me think about that. And that's what motivates you to then further think.
True.
And at the end of the day, I'm a big believer that you're responsible only for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot change anyone else, but you can do what you need to do.
Well, that's the big win of the Western world, was the self, you know, and the common law
But
of...
we don't know what to do with it, hey?
No, we still have two versions of ourselves, the individual and then the kind of group. And I see it in our British side. Like, for example, at an All Blacks game, we don't know how to behave in a group. The best we can do is, All Blacks, All Blacks. But the Europeans, they know.
Yeah.
They do a chant, they do all these kind of different things. But maybe that's just a British thing, the old rude man, like my dad.
Yeah, I guess it's just different, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is different. It is
I
different.
think the spirit of it is the same, but the way we express it is different. Some's more reserved than others.
I just think we're sometimes looking too literal at things and not remembering, you know, we're not just going to a movie to see a piece of entertainment. We're actually, I think, living through that. Or, you know, we're not going to a nightclub just to dance.
Yes.
It's a whole worship thing, you know, where we're moving, we're together. It's really peculiar if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, let's all go into a dark room and dance.
Yeah. As an alien, yeah, have a look at that nightclub.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd be freaked out, man.
And the bass will go through everyone, and there's a combined kind of thing, and you know, it is weird, but most people, it's some of the best times in their life, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, you can't really science too much, otherwise you lose those things, you know. You lose that stuff.
We're in a very interesting time at the moment because, science and spirituality, and you get to question everything, and everything has kind of like almost like a spiritual bent to it, even if it is scientific, and like artificial intelligence. You know, if you think about what is that, you know, and then now we have to actually define what intelligence actually is. Is intelligence knowing how to, you know, multiply 700 by 60, you know, and be able to come up with that answer really quickly, or is intelligence being able to decipher human emotion and artistic endeavours? Of course, artificial intelligence can't be creative. They have no motivations for drawing something, you know. And I think that's one of the big things about artificial intelligence. where they want to make a program paint a picture, but the parameters are so small that has to be programmed before it even thinks about drawing a picture, that it's not really a work of art. It's more a mashup of everything else there is there. It still comes out with something original, and I guess if you define art as being something original, it may slightly fit in that, but I think art is an emotional thing, and until machines can be emotional, it's never going to be intelligent. I feel. Anyway.
No, and there's so many layers to that. Like, who's programming it? If it's going to crash, does it choose the grandma or the child?
Yeah, right.
If it's got a child and a baby, who's programming it to make the rule? Okay, let's assume it's going to crash. Who's going to choose that? So then it gets a piece of code's written, sent out to all the cars. You know, someone's made the rule, and it's like, wow.
And a human did it.
Exactly. You are playing a god now. You know.
I think we always played God.
Definitely.
I think you are your own God, and I think this is one of the big things. I wish people would realise is that you can subscribe to a God, but ultimately you're the one who's making the decision to do things, and how you react to things is up to you. And don't put the responsibility onto something external. We are taught to always look externally for validation. Hence, people, are making these videos out in space. They want to get all these likes and subscribers. But at the end of the day, it's just you're responsible for yourself, and that's great if you think that, because then you don't blame everyone else, and you're very much easier able to make a change if you need to, because you constantly have to tweak yourself.
And also, what should be said, one of the hardest things to achieve.
Yeah.
It's way easier and way more convenient to blame others.
Oh.
And actually, we all do it still.
Yeah.
Maybe not out loud, but
No,
coming here and saying I get
very
revenge.
out loud about that.
True.
You should be having your passport closer. What is that?
I could have chosen not to get revenge on that driver.
You could.
I did not choose to.
But you did. So, fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We also have this thing where I've said it out loud now, so I feel a bit better.
Yeah, okay.
And we think of it as therapy.
Yes.
It's not better. I've just got to work out that I'm driving, and a lot of people driving, and it's not about me trying to get revenge.
Everything's good in moderation, including manners.
What's one thing that's not good in moderation? Love. Can you have too much of it? Maybe,
Yes.
because then you can be a big man baby like me.
You need the opposite in order to really
Suffering.
appreciate it. If you're loved all the time, then you're not going to really appreciate it. But if you go through a dark patch and where you're not loved at all, and then you get loved again, your love intensity is going to be so much more. So, this is part of the suffering. And it's been fascinating to talk to you. I didn't get through any of my questions that I actually wanted to ask you. You jumped right into the black hole of
We're in
philosophy.
space.
We're in space.
I'm still buzzing out that.
So now I've got to
we've
get you
got
back
helmets.
for part 2
I'd love
of
to.
love, life, and everything interesting. Hey?
Yeah, I'd love to anytime, and I'll get you on my podcast too.
Absolutely.
Come and blow our minds together. We've done that today. I feel a little bit of pain in my head, so it's either new ideas or a tumour.
That's right. Bring it on, whatever it is. Thank you very much, Will. Hey, and thank you for watching, and I hope you've got some really good ideas about what we talked about. Personally, I love philosophy, and I love debating it, and I love talking about it, and it's been awesome to have someone like you on there who thinks along the similar veins. This podcast or this vlog can go on for another couple of hours yet, so it's not over yet. We'll get Will back, but for now, thank you very much, guys. See you later.
Out in space!